How much water should a diabetic drink on a daily basis? What about your electrolyte needs? We have been told salt is a bad thing, especially for us diabetics. Why has that been proven false? Under what circumstances will you actually need to add salt to your diet, and how is this actually related and linked to one thing? Insulin. As an added bonus, I'll disclose my secret hydrating weapon, which will help keep you strong, energetic, and cramp-free. But before we begin, let me welcome all of you resilient diabetics out there. This is the channel we turn ordinary, struggling diabetics into extraordinary, well-controlled diabetics. If you don't know who I am, I welcome you. My name is Jay Sampat, and I became an insulin-dependent diabetic a little over 6 years ago due to an autoimmune attack which caused the destruction of my pancreas. So not only am I a diabetic, just like you, where we will walk that walk and talk that talk together, but I do also have a University of Bachelor of Science degree in nutrition dietetics, and that does come in very handy in discussing all these intricacies of being a diabetic. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button followed by the gray notification bell, then choose turn on all notifications if you want to be notified when the next Resilient Diabetic has been published. As with all my videos, this should not be considered personal medical advice. This is my interpretation of the latest research. If you want medical advice, always consult your physician. Your specific water and electrolyte needs are as unique as your fingerprints. Factors influencing your hydration or water needs include your age, your gender, your exercise levels, recovery abilities, illness, metabolism, temperatures, stress levels, hormonal fluctuations, environmental pollutants, and most importantly, your chosen diet, your insulin levels, and your blood sugars. When you were born, you contain the most amount of water you ever will percentage-wise. Human babies are around 78% water by weight. By the time you turn 50, men are around 55% water and women are around 47%. Since muscle contains more water than fat, the fittest will also have a greater percentage of water of people their age. So our first question is, how much water do the experts recommend? And one thing you should understand right here and right now, all the advice they give is based on the modern way of life. And what do I mean by that? That is 3 high carbohydrate meals per day, 2 or 3 more carbohydrate rich snacks a day, which if you subscribe to this channel and you're following me, knows this leads to a condition called hyperinsulinemia. The human body, evolutionary wise, was never designed to have insulin levels elevated throughout the entire day. According to one doctor and a diabetic expert, we should be aiming to drink at least 6 glasses of water or drink at least 1.2 liters a day. Then we've got the Institute of Medicine, who recommends us diabetics drinking 13 cups a day. They assume people with diabetes are especially prone to dehydration as a result of higher blood sugars. And that's all related to one thing, your A1C and where you've been instructed by your doctor to keep it. If it's high, glucose then builds up in the bloodstream, so this puts tremendous pressure on the kidneys, which are forced to work really hard to filter out all that excessive sugar. Thus, you remain thirsty. To add to the confusion, many of you have been taught the 8 glasses a day rule. So who's right and where did that originate? That actually comes from the basic physiological calculations based on the 3 ways we lose water. 1 is sweating. 2, through urination, including bowel movements. And lastly, the one that most do not take into account, breathing. Yes, breathing. The smoke you see coming out of your mouth when it's cold, that's water. The combination of all 3 is approximately 2.2 liters of water a day. 2 liters from sweating, urination, and bowel movements, and zero point 0.2 from breathing. Now you know why you've been told to drink 8 cups of water a day. That equates to 2.2 liters. But in the end, it'll be up to you and your doctor to decide what is best for you. The biggest factor that none of the experts want to touch on, which we will focus in on today, is the relationship between hydration and the diet and your insulin levels. So let's start with the carbs we eat and water retention. Every 1 gram of carbohydrate we eat requires as much as 3 to 4 grams of water to store it. So let's say you eat 1 medium russet potato. You will be eating around 37 grams of carbohydrates. That would then require between 110 to 150 grams of water the body would have to hoard just to store it as glucose or glycogen in the muscle or liver. On an average carb diet, the average person will retain around 1.5 pounds of water weight just from the carbs on a regular basis. If you go on a fast or you simply stop eating all the carbohydrates, you would lose that 1.5 pounds immediately. So the very first fundamental rule you must know, the more carbs you eat, the more water the body has to retain to metabolize it. The biggest impact of the misguided high carbohydrate intake is what happens at the kidneys. This is something the high carb proponents have to come to grips with sooner or later. When we are pushed to eat carbs around the clock, even the healthy carbs the experts insist on, like whole grains and fruits, plus snacks, the pancreas has to work hard all day, burning itself out as it has to keep producing insulin to keep and lower blood sugars into that normal range, creating this backlash of metabolic events. This we now know is one of the main reasons for more than 1 in 3 being pre-diabetic and for the explosion of type 2 diabetes occurring around the world. The latest studies now clearly demonstrate one of these damaging end results of high circulating insulin levels is the sodium reabsorption in the distant nephrons of the kidneys. We've already discussed insulin and its role in the pathogenesis of hypertension and insulin resistance in the video Diabetes and Blood Pressure. This explains why diabetes and blood pressure coexist together. I'll put a link in the description box below for that exact video. From an overall health perspective, it is the sustained elevation of insulin production that is problematic. This is referred to as hyperinsulinemia. Insulin's main job is to lower blood sugars, but it also plays a major role in all the other metabolic processes. For this reason, insulin is referred to as the master hormone. Excessive insulin shifts metabolism into storage mode, converting fats and, most importantly, dietary carbohydrates into stored body fat. This leads to weight gain and insulin resistance, but this is also highly dependent on where that excessive fat gets stored. I must re-emphasize this critical point. When carbs are not being directly used for fuel by the body, the liver converts these carbs into fats, triglycerides to be exact, which then gets stored inside the liver, in between all the body organs and within the muscle tissue. It is this fat which cannot be seen even in lean individuals that is causing insulin resistance, thus the increase in circulating insulin levels. Too much insulin not only makes the kidneys retain sodium, causing water retention and high blood pressure, but what is worse, a secondary mechanism kicks in, which compounds the high blood pressure even more. Excessive insulin also stimulates the hardening and thickening of the arterial walls, so they no longer can stretch or they remain elastic. Finally, too much insulin stimulates the constant use of glucose for energy. And this is what has radically changed in the last few decades. The understanding that a calorie in, calorie out model is dead. It is the amount of circulating insulin that will not only determine your health, but your ability to lose weight and, most importantly, keep the weight off. The entire health community, from your nutritional dietitians, your doctors, those in charge of our healthcare institutions, see your body as burning glucose as a good thing. And it is to a point. But a healthy body has to be metabolically dynamic. Our esteemed experts have their heads buried deep in the sands. They have not come to the realization and a critical point that you, as a diabetic, understand. A body that only burns glucose always comes with high circulating insulin levels. Wouldn't you rather have a body that can also burn fat for energy so that you can be lean, healthy, with no metabolic diseases, which are directly associated with a body that only burns glucose for energy? This is not rocket science. So the big picture, if you reverse insulin resistance and neutralize insulin levels early enough before the pancreas is damaged, you will not only be less likely to develop diabetes if you're pre-diabetic, but if you're a type 2, you will be in better control of your diabetes, be able to lose weight, lower your cholesterol, your triglyceride levels, lower your blood pressure, and decrease water retention. Thus, your fluid requirements will change. What we do know, staying hydrated is important no matter what diet and lifestyle changes you follow. But once you curtail insulin by limiting starchy carbs, fruits, breads, pasta, and replacing them with above ground, brightly colored cruciferous vegetables, along with a good size serving of lean protein for every meal, do you realize hydration requirements become dynamic? Remember, carbohydrates are responsible for holding water and sodium in your body. When you limit carbs, or in our case, we choose nutrient-dense carbs, you automatically retain less water. This means some of you may need to drink more fluids compared to other diets. If you aren't carefully monitoring your water intake, mild dehydration can lead to headaches, fatigue, dry mouth, and flu-like symptoms. I am not a proponent of the keto diet. It just does not work for me. But it is my belief that this is one of the reasons for what's known as the keto flu. The body's just simply dehydrated. Not only are fluids critical to you now, but more so are the electrolytes, which are potassium, sodium, magnesium, and calcium. Electrolytes are molecules of certain minerals that have an electric charge. Our nervous system runs on electricity generated by the manipulation of these molecules. That means every function in the body that is dependent upon our nervous system, from our muscle movement to breathing, even digestion, requires the right amounts of electrolytes. So the body places a big priority on managing them. Under ordinary conditions, the loss of minerals is not problematic. When we eat a balanced diet with these above ground, brightly colored cruciferous vegetables, along with a good serving of lean protein, will they supply your body with plenty of minerals for your electrolyte needs. Once one eliminates all the highly dense carbs, thus lowering insulin levels, your body then flushes out even more sodium. So you must be sure to replenish these essential electrolytes. This is why you have to work with your doctor. If you're on blood pressure medications or diuretics, they are more than likely going to have to be reduced in dose, and for many of you, stopped altogether. So the biggest factors that determine water and sodium needs will vary depending on your age, your diet. And what do we mean by diet? the types of carbs and the amounts of carbs consumed, your weight, and your activity level. Even mild dehydration impairs memory, reasoning, and cognitive function, causes unnecessary fatigue, and just makes you feel downright lousy. Not getting enough electrolytes can cause other problems, including muscle cramps, spasms, headaches, and even constipation. This is especially true when magnesium is low. A good rule of thumb is to drink when you're thirsty, but don't overdo it. If your urine is light yellow or clear, then you're drinking the correct amounts. If your urine is a darker yellow, consider drinking more water or liquids throughout the day. And yes, there is such a thing as drinking too much water. It can dilute the electrolytes in your body. So this is what's going to be new for many of you today. Most people are fine with eating more magnesium and potassium. But now, as you fine-tune your carb intake, it is just as important to get out the idea that sodium or salt is a bad thing. Being scared of salt or trying to restrict salt only makes sense if your whole diet is one hyper salted processed meal after another and full of carbohydrates that cause the body to hoard or store sodium. We need salt to live. Think weakness, muscle cramping, and a general sense of fatigue. This is why I lightly salt all my foods. Even as far back as the Romans, salt was the coin by which the soldiers were paid. It was understood that salt was necessary to hydrate, not too much, but not too little. One must also take into account today's table salt. It has heavily been refined to a point where all of its beneficial minerals have been taken out of it. All that's left is sodium and chloride along with anti-caking agents to prevent clumping, such as magnesium carbonate. So today, I am going to introduce you to one of my personal secret weapons. It not only keeps me hydrated, but keeps the water retention off. And what are these pink magic crystals that I use? Himalayan sea salt. White table salt and Himalayan salt are not quite the same thing. Himalayan sea salt takes very little processing and is close to its natural state, which in turn keeps in some of the key minerals in it. Pink Himalayan salt is chemically similar to table salt, as it does contain about 98% sodium chloride. The rest of the salt contains the trace minerals such as potassium, magnesium, and calcium. This gives the salt that light pink tint and helps contribute to maintaining an electrolyte balance within our bodies. These extra minerals also explain why Himalayan salt tastes very different from regular table salt. What I do is I crack a few small rounds into my zero carb drink that I will sip while I train. As an added bonus, I'll walk you through the process of making your own tailored low carb sports drink. It turns out 2 tablespoons of lemon juice contain almost the exact same amount of potassium as in an 8-ounce sports drink. A pinch of salt supplies 110 milligrams of sodium, the same as that 8-ounce sports drink. All you need is 1 cup or 8 ounces of plain water, 2 tablespoons of lemon juice, a small pinch of salt. Remember, a teaspoon of salt contains 2,300 milligrams of sodium. So all you need is 1/20th a teaspoon of salt. It's not much. Instead of table salt, I will crack a little Himalayan sea salt. You can also add your personal favorite flavoring or a no-carb sweetener to taste. You might even try some Crystal Light drink mix if you like. So with the blessings of your doctor, try using Himalayan sea salt instead of regular table salt. Just be sure to make the adjustments for taste. Do I use any other supplement for my mineral or electrolyte needs? No, I do not. Not even a daily multivitamin. Never have either. I get everything I need from my diet. But I do take vitamin D, as I mentioned in the episode, Vitamin D for Diabetics. And I'll put that link in the description box below because it is critical to understand why we as diabetics may have a vitamin D deficiency and how do we go around fixing it. Even now, under Stay Safe COVID orders, I still resistance train here at home 6 days a week for about an hour a day with my hodgepodge of rubber bands and odd-shaped dumbbells. And I always have my trusty cup of salted hydrating drink right next to me. In order to remain powerful, strong, and full, the right amounts of sodium are consistently needed and are mandatory, especially with a low and controlled carb intake. What does fullness mean? The muscles are tight and hard, so I get leverage and power to generate more force, which means more breakdown of my type 2 fibers, which means more growth, which over time equates to better blood sugar control. And that all has to do with the right amounts of fluid and sodium. How do you get to the right amounts? It will be through trial and error over time. Here's the latest picture after 2 months of quarantine and lockdown. And of course, may I introduce you to my newest training partner of the last few months, my daughter Ella, who seems to be screaming at me, calling me out when her daddy's body just says, no more. I will set up a playlist for you with more videos directly related to diabetes and exercise. In the episode, Diabetes Muscle Building, Key to Glucose Control, you will understand why maintaining and keeping your muscle tissues is the single most important task that we as diabetics have towards normalizing and controlling our blood sugars. How does muscle influence not only your health, but metabolism and overall quality of life? What about protein? In the episodes Diabetes and Protein, protein, as you will find out, is the single most important nutrient to focus on. How much protein do you need a day? You will also know the story and the initial contrived study behind all the fear-mongering on this critical macronutrient. If you're on your desktop or laptop, use that mouse to click this upcoming box. If you're on your mobile device, just tap that with your fingers. The first is the link to subscribe to this all-important channel. The second is the link to the playlist mentioned on diabetes and exercise. So have a great and productive day, and we will see you soon with another new episode, which are generally released weekly. Bye for now.